Hi, Lori here with Hardworking Mom. Today we're going to be doing another Thursday business tip, and we're going to be discussing inventory. So not as bad as taxes, but I get tons of questions on this, and I actually had a request to do something on inventory. So I want to talk to you about inventory. So there's a lot of different ways that you can handle inventory. And I'll kind of tell you what I do, and then you can either do it like this or you can use another method. So I have a price calculator. I've actually shown it on another video that you can sign up to download. And what I do is I just create one for all of my products that I make. So I make a lot of different things. I make bath and body products, and I make wreaths, centerpieces, swags, and things like that. So I have one for every what you would call recipe. All right, and I put all of my cost in there, and then when I come down to my final price, that's my inventory amount. So when you're doing inventory, if you have hundreds of rolls of ribbon, unless you are selling that ribbon, it's really not a good idea to count all those, because what happens is you're spending a lot of effort and you're not getting a lot out of it. So when you're making products, it's kind of a good rule of thumb to expense your supplies and count your finished product. It is well within IRS guidelines to do that. So what you can do is, as a matter of fact, on your tax return, you put all of your purchases on there, okay? And then you subtract out your inventory, and then you have the amount that you expense. So you can expense all of your supplies throughout the year, and at the end of the year you can take all of the amount of your finished products and add up your sheets that you have made and use that as your inventory amount. Okay, and then what that does is that allows you to move the expense for that product to the next year. Okay, so you don't want to have a situation where you have expensed something and then you get revenue for it in another year. You want the revenue to be matching with the expense, because if this year you're just starting out and you're spending a lot of money to get supplies, and then you're not going to sell that until next year, but you've made finished products with it, then what happens is you have a loss in this year and a big profit in the next year. You don't want to do that, okay? You want to match up your revenue and your expense. So inventory is the perfect way to do that. Now, you don't have to make it complicated. You do not have to keep track of your inventory all year. As a matter of fact, lots of businesses do not. Unless you are putting them on a website and selling them, then you would want to keep track of inventory. If you had a store, absolutely, you'd want inventory, because you need to know when to reorder things. But if you're just a small business, if you are a crafty entrepreneur, then you don't really need to keep track of every little zip tie that you have. It's not really worth the effort. It's not going to help you. It's not going to save you money. You just kind of keep track of things as you're going along. So I would suggest that you use some type of either price calculator or I would suggest that you use some type of price calculator at the end of the year to record your inventory because you want to make sure to move that money, okay? So let's talk about the price calculator just a little bit. So when you're doing an inventory on a product that you've made, you want to be pretty specific. So you're talking about a recipe. So when you make something from scratch, you make cake, it has 1/2 cup flour, 3 eggs, you know, so on, so forth, so on. Well, it cost you $5 to get a 10-pound bag of flour. Well, you don't want to put $5 in that cake. You want to put that 1/2 cup, right? So you would want to know how many cups were in that 10-pound bag, and then you break it down and say, okay, let's say it's 50 cents. So 50 cents is what you would want to put in there for the inventory amount, okay, for your price calculation. So if you spent $1.50 on a dozen eggs, then you would want to get an egg per egg cost, and you would add that in. So that's how you do it. It gives you two benefits. You can reproduce that again and again and again if you have a recipe. And it helps you to determine, hey, yes, I did make a profit on that. Ooh, I didn't make a profit on that. I better go back and rework this. It's a really good idea to use the entire sales amount for your inventory, because what happens is that is going to pull that expense both for the cost that it took you to make that and the cost to replace what you have in your product. So that's what I do. It just makes it a little bit easier to do that. Okay, so just like when you're making a recipe out of a recipe book, it's a great idea for you to have a recipe book. So I just keep mine on spreadsheets. It's pretty easy just to copy that and or just save as and just keep saving them, because you never know when someone might come back and ask you to make something you've made before. Makes it a lot easier if you have a recipe for it, right? So inventory, keeping up with inventory can have two benefits for you. One, moving the expense, and two, keeping track of what you use so you can reproduce it. As a matter of fact, when you are doing a small business and you have products that you are making to resell, it's a really great idea to have multiples. Even if it is a centerpiece or a wreath, because there are places like ShareASale that will have where they will, you know, someone will pick something up on Etsy that is for sale, and they're less likely to do that if you only have one. If you have multiples of something, there's a much better chance that they're going to pick something like that up. It's a better chance that something is going to go viral if you have multiples of it, okay? So keep that in mind. Keep your recipes for whatever it is you're making, and make sure you have it at the end of the year so that you can do your inventory. Okay, it's not necessary to inventory the small items. I don't inventory this because it just isn't worth it. Okay, I'm only going to inventory the things that are ready to sell. Now, if I was selling these, yes, I would want to inventory that so I could move it so that when I sell it, I can get that expense. Okay, I hope that helped you and answered some of the questions you had about inventory. If you have any other questions, make sure to leave them in the comments and let me know what else you would like me to give you some tips on. Okay, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.